I took a few about 2 years ago, and unfortunately I didn't look after them very well. So as you can see, they've gone very leggy, been eaten a little bit by insects and different things in the garden, but I'm going to use this now for my cuttings. So what I'm going to do, it looks a bit drastic, I'm going to cut all of these right down to about down there like that. The same with this one here, it's a bud on the bottom, I'm going to cut that one there, turn it around, same with that one there, I'm going to cut it to about there, and I'm doing this all the way along right to the nearest bud. You have to find a bud, so there's a little bud there. If there isn't a bud, then you're better to cut it right down to the base. That one there, and then that one is the last one, and there's a little buds there and there, so I shall cut it to there. And what I shall do now is I'll repot this, I'll give it a good feed, and hopefully but next spring it should be quite a good plant. So these, I'm not going to waste them. Obviously, because that's got a flower on it, it isn't any good anyway. You have to have non-flowering shoots. So I'm going to take it back to about 2 buds from there, and I'm going to cut it at an angle there. I shall put that in some water and leave it. Then, although this is crooked, but if you take down to there where there's a leaf joint, and it has to be underneath a leaf joint. If you cut them in the middle, I'll show you now. That one there, because it's a leaf joint, is quite solid. If you cut them right in the middle there, it tends to be a bit more hollow. So always cut them just below a leaf joint there. So that one isn't very good now for using, but I'll do some with the others there. So again, as I say, I've got these left now, so quite nice lengths. Just below leaf joint there, cut it, under there, take the lower leaves off, which I always do. And again, what I always do in the videos, if it's going to be a shoot that you think may have flowers on it, just pinch the tip out from there. If it doesn't appear to have any flower buds in there, you need to do it. And then I just put your leaves together, and you can cut them or twist them, whichever way you like, to make that cutting about that size. And the reason for doing that is because obviously the bigger the leaves, the more the water evaporates, or the moisture evaporates. Again, this is another one. I shall take this one as well. Do that one. Again, under a leaf joint there. Take the lower leaves off. This one doesn't have a little bud in the middle, so it should be fine. So I'm going to just do that. And if I'm in the garden, I don't always have secateurs with me, so I shall just literally break them off. Do it like that, and I've got another cutting there. That's 2 cuttings there. And if you carry on all the way like that with this plant, and because that one has a leaf joint there, another leaf joint there, I could possibly cut that just above that leaf joint there, and just below that one there, and that again could be another cutting. So I'm going to do that with all of these now, and then show you how I can put them into a container. We'll do that one later on. Again, take the bottom ones off, and the middle ones if there's too many, and then just do that like that. So we now have, I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cuttings, and I'm going to put them into a mixture of compost and vermiculite. This is vermiculite. You can also have perlite, which is white and much bigger granules than this one. They tend to open up the soil more. I find that this one keeps the soil more moist. And I don't know whether any of you have had the same with me. I've had the peat-free compost isn't very good wherever I seem to buy it from. And it does tend to, after a couple of weeks, gets very, very heavy and dense. So the new seedlings or young plants don't seem to root so well. So I mix this with that. It's about 50-50 on there. And all I'm going to do now is place these in the corners, just slightly downward by about that much there, in the corners, each one of them. And because these are quite soft cuttings, you need to cover them with a polythene bag or container. So spray with water, don't soak it, just spray it with water. And I made these, just picked up some little twigs from the garden, which I'm going to literally put in the corners, there, there, and it's just to hold up the polythene bag to stop it going on to the plants themselves. So when I put my polythene bag over the top, like that, and obviously label, I'm terrible for not labeling, and that's hence why so many of my plants are just done the flower, because I didn't know the colours and I've had to wait for them to flower. So put that over like that, tie it with a bit of string or elastic band, and that is done for that one. But also, if you've got any containers like this, I've used this before on other cuttings, it's just a food container. The reason I cover it with polythene is because it hides the bottom of the soil there and they seem to root better. Fill the container with your cuttings and your compost, and if you have a spare piece of glass, put that on there. Benefit with this is you can actually then, if it's too moist, you can generally slightly open it. If it's too cold or too dry, cover the top like that. So that's that one there. And this one is another, it's one of the paniculatas, and this one you cut it to as far as you like every spring, and it flowers on new growth it makes this year. These tend to flower on the growth it made last year, so this one will be flowering. So because it's getting later in the season now, you would tend to take this as a hardwood, and you can feel the difference in the hardwood. It literally is very hard, and because they were all flowering anyway, you can either wait until the end of August and beginning of September and do it. If you have some spare ones, you can do it now. So what you do with this one, again, you have a leaf joint, and there's already a leaf joint there. So you just cut it flat on the bottom, so you know the right way up, and then you do it at an angle on the top, like that. And then obviously take all of these lower leaves off, and just leave the two on the top. And then do the same with some compost, and put this in it. This one I don't tend to cover them with a polythene bag, because these leaves will fall off anyway, but because they're hardwood, put them in a shady place in the garden, frost free, so you can take it in for the winter, and they should root at least during the winter, and if not early spring. So that's the paniculata types, the ones that you cut this year, and they flower on this year's growth. And as you can see, this was one I took last year, and this is what it should have, all my others should have looked like. There's a nice new growth there and there. These will flower next year on the growths they've had there. So I hope that little bit helps, but also, which I just realised, if you're doing it in the spring, I bought this one. It's a lovely thing, but it was actually reduced because it was looking pretty poor. But with this, and I normally would do this in the spring, you've got some little growths coming off there. So in the springtime, what I do is I pull that one down and use it, what they call a heel cutting. And there's like a little bit of a heel there. Pull the lower ones off there, and that one as well, cut that one off. And these take very well, and you just literally do the same with that. You put it into your compost, just like that, all the way around that, like that, cover it with a polythene bag, and you could do a couple of these, so yeah, and then you're going to have much shorter, but these tend to be in the early spring. Because I cut this one down when I bought it, it's producing lots of new foliage now. But again, like that, you could use pure vermiculite if you like, or perlite. But hopefully that will help, and the next one I'll do hopefully will be about geraniums, and I'll spend the whole time on geraniums.